Good morning, astronaut class. It's a beautiful day, so I'm filming out on my deck today. And I have here this gigantic bouncing ball. Want to see? And the best thing about this ball is it is so big and it is so sturdy that I can sit on it and then I can bounce. Almost as fun as jumping on the bed. You know a song about some monkeys jumping on the bed? Sing along with me. Get your 5 little monkeys up. 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Now how many? 4 little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped her head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Now there are 3 little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Then there were 2 little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Here's the last one. 1 little monkey jumping on the bed. She fell off and bumped her head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. I have a science experiment for you today. We are going to make some raisins jump. You know how we're going to do that? With a little bit of soda. So what you need for this experiment is a clear glass, a couple of raisins, and some type of clear soda, or almost clear. The closest that I have is ginger ale. So we're going to just drop a few raisins into the glass and then make a prediction. What do you think will happen when we pour the soda in? Let's test it and find out. In goes the soda. Pour it all in there. Try to make it fit. Ooh, there are lots of bubbles in this soda. Lots of bubbles in this soda. The bubbles rise up to the top, and the bubbles attach to the raisins at the bottom. I see. Some of the raisins are starting to wiggle just a little bit. Raisins. Did you see it? Did you see that raisin jump up to the top? It's floating right there at the top. Wonder if any others will float up to the top too. Oh, there it goes, another one. Oh, and the first one is falling down now. Here comes another raisin floating up to the top. It has so many bubbles attached to it that it floats. Oh, that one's falling. Oh, that one's falling. When some of the bubbles pop, there aren't enough bubbles to hold it up anymore. Oh, here goes another one. You could do this experiment with something other than raisins too. It just has to be small and lightweight. You could try small candies like Skittles. You could try beans, or maybe even dried grains of rice. See what happens with different types of objects that you put in your soda. I could sit here and watch this for a while, but that doesn't make for a very interesting video. So I'm going to set it down, and then I have one more thing to share with you, and that is a book called No Jumping on the Bed. This book was written by Ted Arnold. In his bedroom, near the top floor of a tall apartment building, Walter was getting ready for bed. Before turning out the light, his father said, "If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000,000 times. No jumping on the bed. One day, it'll crash right through the floor. Now lie down and go to sleep." Just one more time, asked Walter. But instead, he plopped down on his pillow and squeezed his eyes closed. Good night, said his father. He turned off the light and pulled the door almost closed. The room was dark and quiet, except for a soft thump, thump, thump coming from the room up above. That's Delbert upstairs, thought Walter. He switched on his bedside lamp. If Delbert can jump on his bed, so can I. Walter bounced higher and higher. On his last jump, his hair brushed the ceiling. But when he came back down, his mattress creaked, the floor cracked, and the whole bed tipped sideways. Down through the floor fell Walter, bed and all. Now it happened that Walter's bedroom was directly above Miss Hattie's dining room. She was more than a little surprised when a bed fell through her ceiling and Walter landed in her plate of spaghetti and meatballs. I was not expecting company for dinner, she mumbled with a mouthful of meatballs. Said Walter. Spaghetti is my all-time favorite. But before he could eat, his bed smashed through the table and kept right on crashing down through the floor. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, the plate of spaghetti, the bed, and all. Miss Hattie's dining room was above Mr. Matty's TV room. Mr. Matty didn't even notice a bed falling through his ceiling until a meatball bounced off his head. Miss Hattie tumbled into his lap, and Walter splashed into his aquarium. I've already had my bath tonight, said Walter. He wanted to stay and watch the monsters on TV, but his bed crunched through the floor, taking the TV with it. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, Mr. Matty, the TV, the spaghetti, the bed, and all. Walter's Aunt Batty had just moved into the building. She was still unpacking when Miss Hattie, Mr. Matty, and a dripping wet Walter tumbled through the ceiling right into a box containing her rare Patagonian stamp collection. When he burst through the bottom of the box, Walter was a sticky mess. I see you've started collecting stamps, said Aunt Batty, as she followed Walter through the new hole in her floor. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, Mr. Matty, Aunt Batty, the stamp collection, the TV, the spaghetti, the bed, and all. Patty and Natty had worked 3 days building their dream house with blocks. Afraid that Fatty Cat might knock something over, they carefully shooed her out for the night. Then the upstairs neighbors came through the ceiling. Excuse us, said Walter, remembering his manners. We won't be staying long. The words were barely past his lips when Walter's bed bashed through the floor and continued on its way. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, Mr. Matty, Aunt Batty, Patty, Natty, Fatty Cat, the stamps, the TV, the spaghetti, the bed, and all. The last thing Mr. Hanratty ever expected to see was a bed coming through his studio ceiling, followed by nearly everyone in the building. If I had known you wanted to see my paintings, he said, I would have tidied up a bit. But they never once paused to admire Mr. Hanratty's colorful artwork. They were too busy splashing in his cans of paint. Then his floor caved in, and everyone followed Walter's bed down through the hole. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, Mr. Matty, Aunt Batty, Patty and Natty, Mr. Hanratty, Fatty Cat, 17 cans of paint, the stamps, the TV, the spaghetti, the bed, and all. Maestro Ferlinghetti and his string quartet were astonished by the colorful crowd that fell from the ceiling. The maestro loved an audience, even if they dropped in unannounced. But when Walter's bed smashed through the floor and paint splattered everywhere, the maestro wished his audience would leave. And so they did, along with his string quartet. Maestro Ferlinghetti's practice room floor was also the basement ceiling. It was dark and quiet as midnight down there. Walter squeezed his eyes closed and tumbled through the darkness until he landed on something soft. He opened his eyes. Everything was in its place. His bedroom lights were out. The door was almost closed, and through it, Walter could hear his mother and father talking quietly. "No more jumping on the bed for me," mumbled Walter as he lay back down to sleep. Suddenly he heard a creak. The ceiling cracked, and down came Delbert, bed and all. Down, down, down fell Delbert. Be careful jumping on your bed. You never know what might happen. I'm going to let you take another look at these dancing raisins before we say goodbye for today. I'll talk to you again soon.